Hello, I'm Jason Barron. I'm going to read the Dogmatic Canons from the Council of Trent with regards to the Tridentine Latin Mass. This is from the 22nd session on September 17th, 1562, the Most Holy Sacrifice of the Mass. Okay, now in chapter 8, there's 9 canons with regards to protecting the mass, the form of the mass, how it's said, and the Council of Trent was a dogmatic council, which means that what it defined is to be retained in perpetuity, perpetually, forever. Okay, now this might seem like a little complicated to some people. Maybe a little too theological, but this really isn't like rocket science. So I'll read the 9 canons from the Council of Trent, and then I'll explain them to you. First, let me explain to you what the word anathema means. Anathema means that a person is cast out as a heretic, and that they're and in the context of how it's used here, if a person does these things that it mentions, it says, let him be anathema, which means that if a person does these things, they're automatically excommunicated ipso facto, meaning by that very fact. It means that they're heretics, and are automatically excommunicated ipso facto by that very fact. They're anathema. Okay, now I'm going to read the first canon. If anyone says that in the Mass a true and proper sacrifice is not offered to God, or that the sacrificial offering consists merely in the fact that Christ is given to us to eat, let him be anathema. Okay, that means just what it says. If somebody denies the true presence in the Eucharist, they're anathema. They're heretics. Okay, put on my glasses here so I could. Okay, now canon number 2. If anyone says that by the words, do this in remembrance of me, Luke 22:19, 1 Corinthians 11:24, Christ did not make the apostles priests, or that he did not decree that they and other priests should offer his body and blood, let him be anathema. Okay, so that means that anybody who denies the apostolic succession, that the priestly succession, if anybody denies that the priestly succession of the Catholic Church dates back to the apostles, if anybody denies that, then they're anathema. They're a heretic. So see, so far this is pretty easy to understand, right? Okay. 3. If anyone says that the sacrifice of the Mass is merely an offering or praise and of thanksgiving, or that it is a simple memorial of the sacrifice offered on the cross and not propitiatory, or that it benefits only those who communicate, and that it should not be offered for the living and the dead, for sins, punishments, satisfactions, and other necessities, let him be anathema. Okay, so what this canon is saying is that if basically that if not propitiatory, or that it benefits only those. Okay, so what they're saying is, if the Mass has no benefit, if you don't receive communion, that's heretical, because you still receive graces simply by being present at the Mass. and it's not a simple memorial. It's a sacrifice. It's the same sacrifice over and over. It's not like Jesus is being sacrificed anew each time. It's the same sacrifice, but it's just being done over and over again at every mass. So if anybody denies that, they're heretical. They're anathema. Okay, Canon 4. If anyone says that the sacrifice of the Mass constitutes a blasphemy to the sacred sacrifice that Christ offered on the cross, or that the Mass detracts from that sacrifice, let him be anathema. Okay, so what this canon is saying is that if anybody says that by offering the sacrifice repeatedly over and over again is blasphemous, then they're a heretic. They're anathema. Okay, Canon 5. If anyone says that it is a deception to celebrate masses in honor of the saints and to ask their intercession with God according to the mind of the church, let him be anathema. Okay, what that one means is that if anyone says that it's a deception to celebrate masses in honor of the saints and to ask their intercession, they're heretics. See, let him be anathema if they say that. So see, so far it's pretty easy to understand, right? Okay, number 6, Canon 6. If anyone says that there are errors in the canon of the Mass and that it should therefore be done away with, let him be anathema. Okay, so if anyone says that the Tridentine Latin Mass is erroneous, because again, this is when, in response to Protestantism, the Council of Trent was convened, and they were making sure that the Latin Mass stayed the Latin Mass forever, and it never became Protestantized. So what this one is saying is that if anyone says that there are errors in the canon of the Mass, that is the Tridentine Latin Mass, that's the Mass we're talking about here, and if anybody even says that the Latin Mass, that the Tridentine Latin Mass should be done away with, again, they're ipso facto heretics. Heretics by that very fact. It says, let him be anathema. If anyone says that there are errors in the canon of the Mass and that it should therefore be done away with, as many modernists do say, says, let him be anathema. So those modernists who say that are ipso facto heretics. They are heretics by that very fact, by the fact that they say that the Tridentine Latin Mass should be done away with. Because that's the Mass we're talking about here. So again, that's in plain language. If anyone says that there are errors in the canon of the Mass and that it should therefore be done away with, let him be anathema. So if anybody says that the Tridentine Latin Mass should be done away with, they're heretics. I mean, that's not my interpretation or whatever. That's what it says. I mean, or am I, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it says it in plain language. If anyone says that there are errors in the canon of the Mass, referring to the Tridentine Latin Mass, if anyone says that there are errors in the canon of the Mass and that it should therefore be done away with, let him be anathema. Okay, so if anybody says that the Tridentine Mass should be done away with, they're heretics. I mean, it says it right here in plain language. It's not my interpretation or opinion. It's what it says here in this dogmatic canon number 6 from the Council of Trent. On the session regarding the Mass. Okay, now we're going to number 7. Canon 7. If anyone says that the ceremonies, vestments, and external signs which the Catholic Church uses in the celebration of its Masses are the source of godlessness rather than helps to piety, let him be anathema. Okay, so anybody who says that there should be no vestments or ritual is is a heretic. They're anathema. Again, that one's easy to understand. If anyone says that the ceremonies, that the rituals and all that, vestments, that's the priestly vestments, and external signs which the Catholic Church uses in the celebration of its masses are the source of godlessness rather than helps to piety, let him be anathema. Okay, so that's pretty easy to understand. If you say that, if you deny that that the beauty of the ritual and the vestments make the celebration more more pious, more to put you more in a for divine focus, instead of like a plain, just a plain Puritan meeting house with a guy in a suit and tie performing the service, like how it is in most Protestant churches. If you were to say that, yeah, that's the way it should be, you're anathema. You're a heretic. You're not Catholic. You're ipso facto excommunicated if you say that. Okay, number 8. If anyone says that masses in which the priest alone communicates sacramentally are illicit and should be done away with, let him be anathema. Basically, this one states that Catholics are required to believe that the priest alone communicates sacramentally, and that there is no universal priesthood of all believers. And if anybody does say that there's a universal priesthood of all believers, and that the priest alone doesn't communicate sacramentally, then they're anathema. If you believe in if you don't believe that the priest alone can communicate sacramentally, perform the sacraments, in particular the Eucharist, must be performed by the priest. There is no universal priesthood of all believers. Okay. Now, number 9. If anyone says that the rite of the Roman Church prescribing that a part of the canon in the words of consecration be recited in a low tone of voice should be condemned, or that Mass should be celebrated only in the vernacular, or that water should not be mixed with the wine offered in the chalice, since that would be contrary to Christ's decree, let him be anathema. Okay, now, let's break this one down. Okay. If anyone says that the rite of the Roman Church prescribing that a part of the canon in the words of consecration be recited in a low tone of voice should be condemned, let him be anathema. Okay, in the Tridentine Mass, the words of consecration are said in a whisper, in a very in a low tone of voice, whereas in the Novus Ordo Missae that was concocted by Pope Paul the Sixth at Vatican II, the words of consecration are practically bellowed, as opposed to being said in a low tone. And here, this dogmatic canon here is saying that if you even say that using the low tone for the consecration should be condemned or should not be done, basically, you're anathema. Okay, so that's one way that the Novus Ordo Mass violates this particular canon here. And it says, or that the Mass should be celebrated only in the vernacular, let him be anathema. Okay, so anybody who even says that the Mass should not be said in Latin, that it should only be said in the local language or the language of the country, if anybody even says that that's the way it should be, according to this canon, they're anathema. Let him be anathema. This is plain language here. I'm not interpreting or giving opinion, or it says if anyone says that the Mass should be celebrated only in the vernacular. That means only in the local language as opposed to Latin, which is how the Novus Ordo is done. Let him be anathema. So the Novus Ordo clearly violates this canon. And again, I'm not giving opinion or interpreting strictly or loosely. I'm just, I mean, this is what it says. I mean, you hear it. You hear it. I'll read it again now, the whole canon for number 9. If anyone says that the rite of the Roman Church prescribing that a part of the canon and the words of consecration be recited in a low tone of voice should be condemned, meaning not done, or that Mass should be celebrated only in the vernacular, that is, only in the local language, not as opposed to Latin, or that water should not be mixed with the wine offered in the chalice, since that would be contrary to Christ's decree, let him be anathema. So everything mentioned here in Canon 9, if anybody says these things, they're anathema. They're ipso facto heretics. They're ipso facto excommunicated. They're not Catholics. Once again, I'll read it for maybe some people might find this complicated. If anyone says that the rite of the Roman Church prescribing that a part of the canon and the words of consecration be recited in a low tone of voice should be condemned, meaning not done, not performed that way, or that Mass should be celebrated only in the vernacular, meaning that Mass should only be celebrated in English or French or Italian or Spanish, what have you. If anybody even says that that's the way it should be, according to this canon, then they're anathema. Okay. So just one more time, the whole thing. If anyone says that the rite of the Roman Church prescribing that a part of the canon and the words of consecration be recited in a low tone of voice should be condemned, or that Mass should be celebrated only in the vernacular, or that water should not be mixed with the wine offered in the chalice, since that would be contrary to Christ's decree, let him be anathema. Okay, so if anybody even says these things, it says that they're anathema. Okay, and those were the canons 1 through 9 with regards to the holy sacrifice of the Mass, which is in reference to the Tridentine Latin Mass, which this was meant to protect and perpetuate forever. That was the whole point. It's the whole point of these canons. So yeah, I just read what it said, and like I said, I wasn't interpreting or giving opinion. I was just telling you what the canons say and what they mean. Okay. Well, I'm Jason Barron. I hope you found this video educational. It's not really too hard to understand. It says what it says in plain language. Okay, I'll talk to you again soon.